Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of Musical Musings, airing every Wednesday at 1 p.m. This program is broadcast to you from Rajamakhan University of Technology, Pranakhan, and I will be bringing this program to you in two parts. For the first part, I will introduce an artist and a song to you, and we'll discuss a little bit about the artist and a little bit about the song, particularly some of its background and the main themes of the song, like what it's all about. Then we'll go ahead and listen to the song and get to the second part of our program. For the second part, we will analyze the lyrics. We will look especially at anything that may be difficult to understand. Difficult vocabulary, slang, sayings, anything like that may be hard to understand. Okay, let's get to the show. Welcome, everyone. I'm Gary Gray, your host for the Musical Musings program. I'm an American English teacher here in Bangkok, Thailand at Rajamakhan University of Technology, Pranakhan. I've been teaching here for more than 8 years now, and I do like to incorporate music into my classroom sometimes. So, it's natural that I bring you this program. Now, one of the reasons I do incorporate music into the classroom is because a lot of times within a classroom setting, we're learning out of a textbook or things like that, or maybe some worksheets that we get from online or something like that. Those are all going to teach us about grammar, vocabulary, that sort of thing. Those are all good to know. You need to know those if you want to learn English well. But the goal of learning a language is to communicate. And so we also need to learn some slang, some kind of colloquial. What that word means is kind of just the normal way that people talk, which may not be the formal or even always correct way of speaking. And where do you learn that? Well, it's a little difficult to learn that. It's a little easier with my students because I'm a native English speaker, so sometimes I might use some of that language, and then if I catch myself, I will explain it to them so they will understand. But other ways are through movies, television, and music. It's a little hard to do movies in a classroom setting because they're so long. I have done it once or twice, but I don't like to do it too often. It takes up too much time. And sometimes, if the movie's too long, you can't even fit it into a classroom setting. So music is the easiest way to do it. So I do like to incorporate music into my classroom. And so that's also why I bring you this program. And so for this week, we're going to be doing the song Sister Christian by the band Night Ranger. Okay, so first a little bit about Night Ranger. They are a hard rock band, generally. If you've watched my program before, you know I don't like to talk about genres too much, because there's too much crossover. But mostly, they're a hard rock band. And they were formed in San Francisco in 1982. They're a 5-member band, and 3 of the band members have been there since the start. Although one did take a brief break and then came back, so he missed one of the albums that they recorded. But he's basically been there the whole time. Now, the way I worded that, you can probably figure out that they are still performing. So Night Ranger is still around, still performing. I have to say that's a little bit surprising. While they were a popular band, they were not extremely popular. This song was, that we're going to do today, Sister Christian. It was their best song in terms of popularity that they performed. But but they were generally not extremely popular. Popular enough. This isn't their only hit. They have several hits. Popular band. But a lot of times kind of these middle-of-the-road popular bands, you know, after a while, they just go away. Especially after 40 years. They formed in 1982. And in fact, they sort of formed even before then, because those three original members were already together with a band called Rubicon. And then that band broke up in 1979. And then the band went through a couple of other names, including one close to their current name, which was Ranger. They went through a couple of other names and brought in a few other people, a few other band members in and out, and it took them a few years to find themselves. And finally, in 1982, they settled on Night Ranger. Okay, so that is Night Ranger. Again, formed in 1982, so they're about 43 years old now. Although, again, they are even a little bit older than that when you consider the three original members being together with Rubicon. So those three original members have been together since 1979. Or at least two of them. Again, one of them did take a brief break, so he was out of the band for a while. But at least two of them have been together. I'm sorry, Rubicon broke up in 1979. In my notes here, I didn't even put down the history of Rubicon. So they've been together for even longer than that, because I don't know how long Rubicon was together. So they've really been together for over 40 years. Could even be close to 50 years if Rubicon was around long enough. But I don't think so, given the age of the band members. So probably not long before 1979. So they've probably been around for 45 years, something like that. 46 years, 47, 48. We know it's at least 43. That's when Night Ranger formed. And we know it's at least... Actually, we already do know it's 46 because... Sorry, doing the math in my head here. That's 1979 to now. We're recording this in 2025. So that's 46 years. So we know they've been together for at least 46 years. So it could be close to 50. Again, I think 50 is probably a little much given the age of the band members. But they've been together for almost 50 years, so that's quite a long time. I'm guessing that most of our listeners here aren't even 50 years old. So almost 50 years. Okay, so the song we're going to do by them, as I mentioned, was their top song. It reached number 5 in the charts in the U.S. So very high up there. I mention this occasionally. I'll mention it again, why I look at the charts in the U.S. People may think I'm being biased because I'm American. They do these charts in Australia. They have these charts that they keep track of in the UK and in Europe. Why am I looking at the... And even in certain countries in Europe, like Germany, they look at the charts there too. There are enough people in those countries, millions and millions of people. Of course, Europe's a continent, but you have the EU, so I think they have a European chart as well for all of Europe combined. So, why am I looking at the U.S.? They also have Canadian charts. I didn't mention them. Why am I looking at the U.S.? Well, all of these areas, well, most of them, not Europe, of course, except for the U.K. And Ireland. But most of these countries are English-speaking countries. And this is where most of the music industry is in these English-speaking countries. That's why a lot of bands that don't even speak English will sing in English or will learn English and sing in English. Maybe they have English as their second language, but they'll do most of their music in English. A band like ABBA does most of their music in English. That's early. If you look a little more recently, although they've been around a long time too, but a band like Sabaton, which does heavy metal, They'll certainly do some music in other languages, particularly Swedish, which is where they're from, but they do most of their music in English. It's the number one market for music. And the biggest, most populated English-speaking country is the United States of America. And so the U.S. charts is where everyone wants to kind of rank. That's the most important one. It's certainly good if you can rank on the UK charts or the Australian charts or the European charts or the Canadian charts. Sure. Wonderful. But the U.S. charts is where everyone wants to rank. So that's why I use the U.S. chart positions when I'm doing these shows. Occasionally I'll mention one of the other ones, but I focus on the U.S. charts. It's not because I'm biased, because I'm from the U.S. That is the one that most people follow. Okay, so again, Sister Christian got to 5 on the U.S. charts. It came out in 1984, and it is something that we call a power ballad. Now, what is a power ballad? It is kind of a slow song with a story. That's kind of what a ballad means. Slower, has a story to it. But the reason it's called a power ballad is, at least in parts of it, like in the chorus for this song, the music gets pretty strong. It's more of a kind of a rock beat, a rock sound to it, and it's usually performed by bands who have that kind of image, who are heavy metal bands, who have that power to put forward. And that's what we see in this song. Each of the verses is pretty soft and light, but the chorus comes in strong. Okay, now an interesting thing about this song, again, the name of it is Sister Christian. It was named after one of the band members' younger sisters, but her name was Christy. But one of the other band members misheard the lyrics and sang it Christian. And then that just stuck, and that's what they go with. So that's how the name came about. It's kind of an accident. It's supposed to be Sister Christy, but it's turned into Sister Christian. And it's about a band member's younger sister, that band member that wrote it, about his sister Christy. It's about her growing up fast, sometimes too fast. Now, I will warn you, I hesitated doing this song. I decided to do it just because it's a popular song and I like the song. But honestly, we're going to have a little bit of trouble analyzing the lyrics in the second half of the program. I'll tell you why. A lot of the lyrics are confusing. The fans debate what a lot of the lyrics mean. There's one line right at the beginning of the chorus where it says, motoring. And it gets repeated, you're motoring, later, a little bit later. And it's right at the start of the chorus, so you hear this a lot, motoring. What does that even mean? You know what a motor is, right? It's what runs things, right? It's the power behind like a car or a motorbike. That's why it's called a motorbike. It's a bike with a motor, a motorbike. So the verb form, the action, motoring. What does that mean, for someone to be motoring? I mean, you can maybe guess it means driving. Maybe. Well, the band did come out and say what it meant, but even that's kind of questionable. Because then if you interpret the rest of the lyrics with that kind of thing in mind, it sounds like the band member that wrote this is being pretty negative toward their sister. It sounds like this is all about her being sexually promiscuous, sexually active, without really being old enough to kind of know the consequences, know herself. I I will say, though, that when I read the lyrics, honestly, I do think that's what it's about. So it seems a little mean towards the sister. I don't know. But again, I could be misinterpreting this. So a lot of what we talk about here when we analyze the lyrics in the second half is what I'll be telling you sort of maybe English sayings that we have. For example, there's the word Mr. Right that comes up several times. That's also in the chorus. That means something in English. So I'll tell you what that means. So we're going to talk a lot about things like that in the second half of the program. And I'm going to struggle a little bit to tell you actually what each line fully means as far as what the song itself means. I will tell you a little bit because I kind of want you to understand what the song is trying to tell you. But again, it's based on my interpretation. I think I'm correct based on what the band said, but it's difficult. A lot of fans really debate what this song is about. I think I know. I'll give you my best idea, but I could be wrong. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to the song. And for those of you joining us on YouTube, as always, because of copyright issues, we cannot embed the video. So, we will give you a link in the upper right-hand corner. Please click on that. That will take you to the video for this song. Once it's over, you can click back over to here for the second part of our program. And everyone else listening out there, whether you're on streaming or radio, you should be able to listen just fine. Okay, let's get to the song.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Okay, welcome back. So that's the Sister Christian by Night Ranger, and that's a song about growing up, and probably growing up too fast. So let's get to these lyrics. And as I said in the first half, this is going to be a little bit tricky. Okay? So we start out, Sister Christian, oh, the time has come. And you know that you're the only one to say, okay. All right, so already we're confused with the meaning. So like I said, I'm not going to try to tell you what everything means. I can tell you that, oh, the time has come means that, okay, she's grown up. And in fact, in the video, you can see her graduating. She's graduating from high school, for those of you that did not watch the video. So you kind of get some idea already, right? She's graduating from high school. But you're the only one to say okay. What does that mean? I think it means that she's saying okay to sex. Again, I can't be sure about that. So she's growing up too fast. All right? And in fact, in the next verse, it will actually say that she's growing up so fast. It doesn't say too fast, but it does say so fast. Okay, so then it says, where are you going? What you looking for? So she's going somewhere. What is she looking for? And then it says, you know those boys don't want to play no more with you. It's true. All right, so again, another line that's difficult to interpret. Because sometimes we do mean play in that kind of naughty way. But I think what they mean here is literally play. In other words, like children. They're not children anymore. That's why they use the word boys. Thinking of children. Those boys, they don't want to play anymore. In other words, they want more. And she's the only one to say, okay, from 2 lines before. That's why I think this is about her and being sexually promiscuous and being too young. She's just out of high school. And so now we get to the chorus, and here's where we start out, where it says you're motoring. Now I will tell you what the band said that meant, and this is why I think this song has to do with sex. So the word motoring, the band has said that is supposed to be interpreted as cruising. Now here is a good word to learn from English, because it has different meanings, and so you might think, oh, cruising. You're going on a cruise ship. That's nice, right? Okay, not in this context. Actually, the way the people use it, I mean, the way those people think about it, it is still a good thing because they think it's fun and they still call it cruising. But a lot of times it's done to pick up guys or girls. And what it means is you're driving in your car up and down some road that everyone knows everyone goes to hang out at. Where I grew up, we had a road called Acushnet Avenue. And that's where everyone would go cruising. I'm happy to say I've never gone cruising once in my life. Now, a lot of times, I will admit, a lot of times, people aren't going to pick up someone and go have sex. People are just stopping, talking to each other, having fun and partying, whatever. So a lot of times it's just for fun. But it does happen. A lot of prostitutes even hang out on that road that I'm speaking of, back where I come from. And that's where everyone would be doing their cruising. So that's what the band means by motoring. So she's cruising. She's going cruising. Which a lot of times, like I said, is to pick up, in this case, guys, because she's a girl. So she's out there trying to pick up guys. And in fact, it then says, what's your price for flight? Now, this is where I might be off on the wrong track here. But that sounds to me as if she's prostituting herself out. Because what's her price? And then for flight, could mean to get away, or it could mean, last week we talked about with the song we did. For those of you that listen every week, you'll know what song we did last week. We did Over the Rainbow. And things like flying high are just viewed as being nice things. And so, since that's what she's after is sex, it could be talking about that. So that sounds like prostitution to me. I don't know. And then it says, in finding Mr. Right. Okay, so you're motoring. What's your price for flight? In finding Mr. Right. Mr. Right. That term in English means finding the right guy for you. Now, in this context, I'm not sure it really means that. I think they're talking about Mr. Right for one evening. We usually use that word for finding, like, your soulmate, the guy you want to be with for the rest of your life. That is Mr. Right. So that's what a girl, or maybe even a gay man, would be looking for. They'd be looking for Mr. Right, the person to be with forever. I'm not sure that's what we mean here. And then the chorus ends with, you'll be all right tonight. Again, confusing line. Is he really saying she'll be all right? Because it sounds like he's worried about her. You're motoring. What's your price for flight? In finding Mr. Right. I think what he's saying is reflecting her thoughts. Again, it's a very difficult song to interpret. In other words, she thinks she'll be all right tonight if she finds a man to be with, if she finds that Mr. Right. You'll be all right tonight. So I think that's what this song is saying. Again, very difficult to interpret. There may be, I'm sure there's not a lot of native English speakers out there listening to this recording, listening to this program, but if they are, some of them may say, "Oh, you're crazy. That's not what this is about at all." Forgive me. That's my best guess. It's very tricky. Even in the research I did, the research itself said that fans debate this song all the time as far as what it means. Okay. Now, I'm spending a lot of time talking about this because, really, there's only 2 verses. After the second verse, we get the chorus repeated 4 times, and then the ending is really just a repeat of part of the first verse. It's like the first 2 lines. Okay, so the second verse. Babe, you know you're growing up so fast. Okay, that's easy enough, right? Perhaps some of you don't even know the phrase growing up. It just means as you mature, as you get older. But it's not just age, it's kind of maturing. So your body grows, you get mentally mature, that sort of thing. You're growing up. And Mama's worrying that you won't last to say, let's play. Okay, so Mama, that's short for mother. So your mother is worrying that you won't last. For something to not last means it won't be around anymore. Or it won't even survive anymore. Who knows with this song, given what this song's about. That you won't last to say, let's play. Now, I think again here, I think we literally mean play. Like playing games. Like she's not a child anymore. But the mother still thinks of her as a child. Because she's still so young. She's just out of high school. She's growing up too fast. So, the mother is worried that she's growing up too fast, in other words. Sister Christian, there's so much in life. Don't you give it up before your time is due. It's true. Okay. Now, this is another line here, which I think gives away to me that they are talking about sex. Okay? So, Sister Christian, there's so much in life. In other words, there's a lot of stuff going on. Lots to do. If you want to go to university, if you want to get a career, you want to do this, you want to do that, that you shouldn't always just be thinking about going out and finding a guy to do it with. The reason I think this next line is clearly about that is because it says, don't you give it up before your time is due. The phrase giving it up, especially when we refer to a woman, can mean that. Can mean giving up her self, if you know what I mean. Giving up herself to a man. Before your time is due. In other words, before you need to. In other words, maybe when you're married, you might... I suppose you don't need to. It's not a requirement. It's not the law. But most married people do, especially early in their marriage. So, once you're married, okay. Some people are okay with doing it before they're married. Okay, fine, but have a boyfriend. Be with them for a while. Know them. Know who they are. Okay? That's kind of what it's saying. So remember, this was written by one of the songwriters about his sister. So he's trying to give his sister some advice here. Don't give it up before your time is due. It's true. All right, and then as I said, we do the chorus 4 times. Motoring, what's your price for flight? We do change one of the lines in the second time we go through the verse. It says, you've got him in your sights, and you're driving through the night. So you've got him in your sights. So in other words, she knows who she wants, and you're driving through the night. That line, again, is a little confusing. Because cruising, you're usually going up, back and forth down the same road. Now, is she driving all night on the road? Or does that mean she's picked him up and now they're going somewhere because she's driving through the night? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that means, that line, you're driving through the night. But to have someone in your sights, it usually means not just that you see them. That is explicitly what it means. But it usually means you're after them for some reason. Either you want them, which is probably the case here, or it could be like in the military, it could be a target that you're trying to shoot. So it's something that you want to be seeing. When you say you've got something in your sights, it's something you want to be looking at. It's not just, oh, this microphone is in my sights, or the camera in front of me is in my sights. No. When you say you've got something in your sights, it means you want to see it. So in other words, she wants this guy. You've got him in your sights. You're driving through the night. Okay, now the next 3 times we just repeat the chorus. We just repeat the original chorus. You're motoring. What's your price for flight? In finding Mr. Right, you'll be all right tonight. We repeat that 3 times, and then we repeat the first 2 lines of the song. Sister Christian, oh, the time has come, and you know that you're not the only one to say, okay. You know that you are the only one, sorry. You know that you're the only one to say, I think I said you're not the only one. No, she is the only one. And you know that you're the only one to say, okay. But you're motoring. And that's the end of the song. So that is Sister Christian by Night Ranger. And as I mentioned in the first part of the program, this was by far their most popular song. Hit number 5 on the charts. As far as other songs by them, they had about 4 other songs that made the charts. I'm talking about just the top chart. There are some kind of sub-charts where they had a lot of songs that made it. Actually, I think they had more than 4 songs that made the charts, but a lot of them were pretty low. They had 4 that were like in the top 50. I will be honest with you. I'm not that familiar with most of them. So this list I took is really just by listing off some of their other top songs. Sentimental Street, When You Close Your Eyes, that one I do know. Goodbye, and 4 in the Morning. So if you're looking for other songs by Night Ranger, those are probably the 4 I'd recommend. Just because they're popular, go ahead and listen to their more popular songs first. I do know some people get annoyed by that. I mean, popularity does not mean a song is good. There are some popular songs that I absolutely hate. But there's a reason they're popular. Most people like them. So, popularity means something. So, their most popular songs, other than Sister Christian, that is definitely their most popular. Their other 4 most popular are Sentimental Street, When You Close Your Eyes, Goodbye, and 4 in the Morning. All right. So that's about it for Sister Christian and Night Ranger. Thank you for joining us for today's Musical Musings program. I'd encourage any young people out there to look into our university, Ratamakan University of Technology, Peranakan. We have a wonderful university here. And please stay with us and tune in next week for another great song. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
Musical musings, musical musings.